We spoke to Dan and said, look, we want to create a product here. We found a great site with some good aspect. It's going to rent well in that area. But let's create something that is a bit punchier and a bit bolder and spacious, but at the same time, really ensuring that we keep the building as an efficient structure as possible to minimise those structural costs.
So True North is a 15-unit multi-residential building in which we were able to explore ideas of beach house design and beach house aesthetics on a much larger scale and in a way that is appropriate for a building in the Sunshine Coast. Probably to me the primary design moves with True North were about doing the simple things well and making sure that we were getting good, passive, sustainable design solutions integrated into the design from the get-go. So we were fortunate with this particular site that it ran east-west, and we were able to orientate the entire building or all units to True North. We also were very conscious of the desire to have only single unit depth to the building so that all units could enjoy good cross ventilation, and all living spaces were facing north as well, so they all get good winter sun. Good northeasterly breezes, and we're screening out the western sun, the early morning eastern sun, and also the westerly winds. All windows are openable, and we can vent air through all rooms. Every bedroom and living space allows for cross ventilation. On the upper level, we have a higher ceiling, and we've got a mezzanine, and we have high louvers, which again allow for the hot air to vent. So on the Sunshine Coast, we enjoy a beautiful subtropical, benign climate, and much of our life is spent outdoors and enjoying that climate. So it was paramount that all of these units enjoyed an opportunity to embrace that climate, but in a way that allowed for protection from the elements as well, be it summer sun or rain. We focused on creating that protection where necessary, but also allowing to move beyond it so that people can get out and feel the sun on them or can experience a bit of rain as well, which I think is really important. With True North, which was pretty much a blank canvas, it was a flat site. There wasn't anything there to respond to or to retain. And the building itself was going to consume a lot of that site with respect to the footprint of the building and car parking and vehicular circulation, etc. But we were very conscious of getting as much landscaping in there as we possibly could. And that included courtyard gardens to the ground floor, vertical green walls to the east and the west to help with sun shading, and street planting, creating canopies for the footpath, and also canopy tree planting to the car park itself. There was also the opportunity for the spaces, the external spaces, be it a balcony or a courtyard or a walkway along the back, to engage with bigger views beyond the site itself and start connecting the larger landscape with the building. When True North was first built, Sunshine Cove was relatively undeveloped, and we didn't know what was going to be built in front of the building. So we're quite conscious of creating views, particularly on the ground floor where those views to the water were most likely going to be lost. So we created courtyard gardens and street planting to create canopies for the first floor. And then once you get up above the first floor, views, long views, were a lot more attainable. But the living spaces and the bedrooms, the master bedrooms for each unit, frame those long views, be it to a long view to a mountain range or a tighter view to a tree canopy or indeed a courtyard garden. Good design, you're not necessarily conscious of it. You feel it, and as soon as something isn't right, you're a lot more conscious of it. So as soon as you see clutter from bins, or you look down from a balcony and you see cars parked, you become a lot more aware of the visual noise of it. But when it's subtle and tucked away, it's a lot more calming, but you appreciate the spaces a lot more. It's a bit of a challenge to want to play with a coastal vernacular or a nostalgic idea of a beach house, be it through form and materiality, and reinterpret it on the scale of a 15-unit building. But what we hoped to achieve in doing that was to provide some sort of contextual relevance to the building, but also to give it a strong and simple identity to respond to or react to the potential visual noise that you get in a lot of these subdivisions, where everything's quite busy and broken down with respect to forms and materials. So we were very keen to keep both the form of the building and the material palette both simple and perhaps a little contextually relevant with respect to its coastal environment. The materials that we chose to use are very robust. They're very cost effective, but importantly, they talk of a Sunshine Coast vernacular as well. So we used fibre cement sheet cladding with over battens. We used trim deck metal sheeting for wall cladding and for roofing, translucent roof sheeting details to the east and the western elevation, recycled hardwoods, and just simple rendered block as well. And we used quite deep colours into areas that we wanted the building and the form of the building to recede, and then lighter colours where we wanted to express the shell-like form of the east and west elevation folding into the roof plane.
We also like, with our developments, to ensure that there's a range of products so that we get that cross-section of the community, because we often find that when we deliver a range of different products and we get a cross-section of community and children and middle-aged people and elderly people, we get a community within that built environment.
Yeah, that's really important. So from a design perspective, we are very aware of the opportunity to create a community within the building itself. In a building that is quite efficient spatially, we've got a lot of units going on within a small area, but we strove to create opportunities that are quite subtle but still allow for a degree of social interaction between people from various units. So the northern decks or terraces, we push them a little further forward than the party walls dividing them to allow for people to talk and interact with other people in the building. We also created what I call the sort of sunrise and sunset decks on each level at the eastern and western ends. It's just a little spot where a couple or even an individual might be able to wander out to and watch the sunrise or the sunset. And the access corridors servicing the units along the southern side are quite deep, and we detailed a handrail that was quite deep as well, so people could come out from the units, break out from the interior space of their units to a space where they could mingle with other people as well. So they're small and subtle moves, but they do allow for and also encourage a larger degree of social interaction between the people living in the building. With the design of True North, we're very conscious of designing solutions to the whole of life costs of the building. And that comes down to the selection of materials. It comes down to even the dimensions of the building to reduce construction waste, integrating items such as a photovoltaic array to minimize costs to the tenants and owners, and also reducing costs in time, obviously, to the environment as well. The building structure is predominantly concrete, which is obviously a material with a high embodied energy. And we take the approach that if we do use concrete in our buildings, that we do it in a way where that aspect of the building is hopefully going to last for a very long time, many, many decades. And then we couple that with lighter weight elements that can be swapped and changed over time.
So what we achieved with Sparks Architects, it was a really efficient grid system where we could build the core structure up on grid, and then internally within that grid, We created enough space to create a really nice unit. But as Dan was mentioning, the flexibility where down the track, that's adaptable because we don't have load-bearing walls within the footprint of the grid of the unit.
That's right. So 2 units could become a larger unit. Ground floor units could become shops. Home offices can happen. It's just a very flexible system.
It's not just the younger people that are moving into the media density. We're actually seeing a shift with people in their 70s, even 80s. What I think the challenge is to create that medium density product that people really do feel like it's a home, particularly if they've come from a house, a single dwelling, and moving into medium density. You need to ensure that the spaces are right, the storage is right, the aspect, the cross ventilation is there, and that's the challenge.
The privacy,
yeah,
the balance of privacy and sort of more social engaging opportunities.
You're going to naturally have that higher interaction between your residents, and so you want to make that a positive thing. You can't avoid it; it's going to happen. So let's create those spaces within the development that enhances the interaction that residents have, and make it a bit of a fun thing. Get them socialising, have spaces where they can socialise.
With True North, we were able to work with a developer who understood the value of design and, importantly, the value of a rational design process. And this is incredibly important because it adds value to them. It adds value to the people who experience that building, and ultimately it adds value to the greater environment.
We like to invest in quality architecture. We find that it gives us a sustainable outcome in terms of our buyers, our investors. If people are buying a high quality product, it tends to deliver them a greater return financially with capital gain. And a lot of our buyers have been actually multiple buyers. They followed us because they know that when they buy with us, their property is going to improve in value. Almost all the tenants are long term. They all love the building. They don't want to leave. And there's families there that have actually shared a unit, and some have moved on and had children, and then others have moved in and had children. They really treat it as their own home. And I think that's a measure of success for when you are building a rental product and people stay there for 10 years.
I think from all the apartments that I've been in and looked at and inspected before we decided on this place has been really clearly designed to have a lot of really open feel, lots of windows that allow to maximize the natural light, and it's, I believe, north facing, and it just gets so much sunlight, and we just have to never really rely on having lights on during the day, and we get so much breeze through, which is amazing and keeps us nice and cool. I guess one of the benefits of allowing us to get so much light is the open balconies and not having those dividers in that would really block off a lot of that light. And then in that we get interaction with our neighbours when we're out there having our morning coffees. We can say hello, and just adds a real social aspect to being at home that you don't get in apartments very often.
Yeah, often when we have people over, we'll go out there for a while as well, and it just gives that extra bit of space as well as, feeling open and airy. And we've learnt a lot from living in such an airy, open apartment that it is possible to do so much with a small space, that we can get that indoor-outdoor feeling. We can have the ventilation and the light, as well as access to all the walking tracks and the waterways, without having to take care of a big piece of land. Yeah.